You've created your 3D model, textured it, and now you're trying to animate it, but nothing seems to work. Every time, a new issue pops up that needs fixing. In this third and final part of the series on how to create a Chibi model from scratch, we're going to look at how to bring our character to life. If you missed the first two parts, you'll find the links in the description or in the card above. Before we begin, it's important to clarify that the rig we'll be using today is specifically designed for this model. If you want to rig a less stylized character, you'll need to extract the key concepts from this tutorial and adapt them to your own model. In any case, we won't be using a facial rig, just a few simple shape keys. Many people struggle when it comes to rigging a character, and I totally understand. Honestly, it's not my favorite part either. Whenever I can, I delegate it or take some shortcuts, like using AutoRig Pro, which is a paid add-on, or Mixamo, Adobe's web platform that includes automatic rigging and a ready-to-use animation library. Both of these methods work well, but they may not be suitable for highly stylized characters, as they often fail to rig them properly. Before diving into the method we'll use today, it's worth mentioning Blender's built-in add-on, Rigify. It's a powerful tool, but it can be a bit complex to learn, so for this tutorial we'll set it aside. Instead, we'll stick to our good old manual rigging method, the one that never lets us down. We'll build the skeleton bone by bone and then bind the mesh to it, like layering muscles onto a body. Now that we've got a better overview, let's dive into the rigging process. We'll split the video into two parts, the first focused on building the rig, and the second on creating shape keys. Throughout this series, I've tried to maintain consistent visuals and style. Let me know in the comments if you like this approach. With that said, let's get started. First of all, make sure to apply any modifiers like mirror and subdivision surface. Don't apply solidify, since that one is only used for the outline. Once that's done, we'll start by adding a bone at the lowest point of the spine. This will act as the root bone. Then extrude it 2 or 3 times, depending on how flexible you want the spine to be. These bones will form the backbone. Next, we'll extrude it again, once for the neck and once for the head. Now add a bone for the eye. This bone should be disconnected, but still parented to the head. To create the shoulders, we'll extrude the top part of the spine, right before the neck begins. To make the movement more natural, we'll need to disconnect the bone while keeping its parent relationship. You can do this by pressing Alt+P or from the Properties window. We'll repeat this process for the arms, but the forearm bones should stay connected. Now comes the fun part, or at least that's what we say. We'll extrude the hand, which will stay connected, and then extrude the fingers one by one. Each finger will be disconnected and made up of 3 bones. If you want to position them precisely in the center, you can use a small trick I often use. Select the bone joint, place the 3D cursor there, then with the bone selected, make sure it's just the head, you can snap it to the cursor. I know it sounds complicated, but it's actually easier than you'd expect. These are basic modeling techniques that most users learn as soon as they open Blender, right after learning the interface, of course. Once the hands are done, we can move on to the legs. Here too, the first leg bone should be disconnected, while the rest will stay attached. We won't be adding actual hip bones, since this is a very stylized character. Pay close attention to the knees and elbows, they should stick out slightly. We'll see why later. Once the rig is complete, rename all the bones, and for those on the left side, add the letter L separated by an underscore or space. This is essential for using the Symmetrize command. Blender will automatically mirror everything to the right side, saving you a lot of time. We're already making great progress. Now select everything, and with the skeleton active, press Ctrl+P, a window will pop up. Choose with automatic weights. This allows Blender to automatically assign weights to the mesh based on the bones. You could also do it manually by selecting empty groups, but that method takes more time, since you'd have to paint vertex weights bone by bone. Some artists prefer it for better control, especially in more complex rigs, but that's not necessary here. Now we're ready for weight painting. In this step, we'll fix any mistakes Blender may have made during the automatic weight assignment. Over the years, Blender has improved, but there are still common issues, especially around the shoulders, pelvis, head, eyes, or tongue. Basically, wherever there are multiple meshes, weight assignment might produce errors. To check, select the rig and the model and go into weight paint mode using Ctrl+Tab. By selecting each bone, you'll see which vertex group it's influencing. From here, we'll go through each bone and move it slightly to detect any unexpected deformations. Now you might be wondering, why is your model black and mine is blue? That's because I customized the colors to get high contrast, so I can quickly spot which vertices are assigned incorrectly. If you want to do the same, go to Edit Preferences, Editing, Weight Paint. By default, the colors are black and white, but you can add 5 colors. Usually they are red for full weight, yellow for around 0.75, green for 0.5, blue for very low weight, close to 0, and black for 0 influence. You can use whatever colors you like as long as you understand what they represent. Back to our rig, one crucial step is to enable auto-normalize. This ensures that when you add or remove a vertex from one group, Blender automatically adjusts its influence in the others. Without this, you might end up with vertices not assigned to any group, which will cause them to move unpredictably. If you're working in symmetry, make sure mirror is enabled. It's off by default. The goal in this stage is simple. Check that every vertex is assigned correctly and that no bone is causing unwanted deformations. You can do this by using the brush, adjusting the weight manually, or using the gradient tool. Deal in areas where there won't be interference from other bones. While doing this, keep moving the bones to see how the mesh responds. One final note, some deformations can't be fixed with weight paint alone. In those cases, you'll need to use corrective shape keys, but that's a topic for another time. Once this phase is complete, we'll add a few simple controls to make the animation easier. We're going to apply the inverse kinematics constraint to control knees and elbows. That's the reason we angled those joints slightly. Without that small offset, IK can behave unpredictably. Now that mystery is solved, let's move on to creating the IK controllers. Start by extruding a bone at the ankle position and another one at the knee. Rename both bones, remove any parenting, and make sure to disable deformation. This part is crucial. If deformation is enabled, the IK might not work properly. Once that's done, go into pose mode and add the inverse kinematics constraint to the leg bone. Set the target to the armature and the bone to the ankle controller. Next, set the pole target to the armature again and choose the knee as the bone. Now set the chain length to 2. This tells Blender to include 2 bones in the IK chain, the thigh and the shin. If you notice strange bone rotations, try adjusting the pole angle. Usually using 90 degrees, either positive or negative, will fix the issue. Now repeat the exact same process for the arms. In this case, replace the ankle with the hand and the knee with the elbow. The first bone you apply the constraint to should always be the one that serves as the main controller. With that done, we can also simplify finger movement. We'll add a copy rotation constraint to the finger joints so that rotating a single bone will move the entire finger. Now you might be wondering, how do we do that? Select the first and second bones of the finger, then press Ctrl plus Shift plus C and choose copy rotation. Enable only the Z-axis, and set local space for both the target and owner. Repeat this for the next joint in the finger as well. You can also apply the copy rotation constraint manually from the Bone Constraints panel, but keep in mind that you'll have to select the target bone and the armature every single time. Using the shortcut is much faster, especially since you'll be repeating this for every finger, so it's definitely worth using the quick method. Once you've applied the constraints, test everything to make sure it's working properly. If you see any mesh deformations, you can go back to weight paint mode and fix them. Now, if you're happy with the result and thinking, but I want custom-shaped controllers, no problem, it's super simple. Just add any shape you like into the viewport, go to the bone properties in pose mode, and under custom shapes, assign the shape you created. You can also scale or reposition it to fit your needs. With that out of the way, we can move on to the part I personally enjoy the most, shape keys. To create shape keys, start by adding a basis shape key. This is your neutral mesh and should never be edited. And just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, make sure to apply all modifiers before starting with shape keys. Once you begin, you won't be able to apply them anymore. Now add a second shape key. This is the one we'll actually be working on. In my case, I've joined all mesh parts into one single object, but you can also work with separate meshes if you prefer. Just keep in mind, if you're using multiple objects, you'll need to add the same shape keys to each mesh involved in the facial expressions. With the shape key selected, go into edit mode and begin moving the vertices. When you switch back to object mode, you'll see the mesh return to its default state. If you set the shape key's value to 1, you'll see the changes you made in edit mode. You can also do this in sculpt mode, but be sure to set the shape key value to 1 before sculpting, otherwise the vertices won't move. I personally like to mix both approaches for flexibility, but it's absolutely fine to do everything in edit mode as well. If you go that route, use proportional editing and make sure to enable connected only, or you might accidentally move vertices you don't intend to. Once you're happy with your expression, in this case, a blink, we need to mirror it. With the value set to 1, open the small menu next to the shape key and choose New Shape from Mix. Then select Mirror Shape Key. If everything was set up properly from the beginning, you should now have a mirrored blink on the other eye with no extra effort. Now let's move on to the mouth. The process is the same. Since this is a Chibi character, we'll keep the lip sync simple with just a few key phonemes. Usually A, E, I, O, and U. We'll start by creating the shape key, and then use New Shape from Mix to generate the others based on that one, so we're not starting from scratch every time. This part can take some time depending on your experience, so don't rush it. If you want something even more stylized, some artists use a single shape key for an open mouth and then animate it using audio. They add a keyframe, and in the graph editor channel Sound to Samples, they insert an audio file. Blender will then animate the shape key based on the waveform. Yes, it works, but you'll have very little control and the result will look quite stylized. Still, I wanted to mention it. Once you've finished your essential phoneme shape keys, you can move on to basic emotions like joy, sorrow, or anger, or any others you want. The method is exactly the same. Create a new shape key and move the vertices to match the expression. You already have all the tools you need. If you get stuck, feel free to look up 2D Chibi references to help guide your expressions. Now, if you're wondering how to add extras like tears, anger marks, or sweat drops, these are usually just extra mesh objects that are hidden and scaled down to nearly 0 inside the head. You reveal and animate them when needed. Once you're happy with everything, your mesh is ready to be animated. Just remember, animation takes time, so good luck and be patient. You can control your shape keys from the side panel, or if you're more advanced, with drivers directly in the viewport, but we won't cover that in this video. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future video. I think I've covered everything. Thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far and want to share your model with me, feel free to tag me on Instagram or X, and if you haven't already, leave a like or subscribe to let me know that you enjoy this kind of content. I'll see you in the next video.